You ever meet someone who feels older than their age? Not mature in a polished Instagram caption kind of way. I mean old, calm in a crisis. Weirdly responsible, the kind of kid who reminded the teacher about homework, or the teenager who spoke to adults like a tiny accountant. Or maybe that was you. You didn't throw tantrums. You didn't ask for much. You figured things out, early, and people praised you for it. You're so mature for your age. You're an old soul. You're wise beyond your years. Sounds like a compliment. Feels like one too, at first. But here's the uncomfortable question no one asked back then. What did it cost you to grow up that fast? Because children who grow up too fast don't just magically become responsible adults. They become something else first. They become watchers, regulators, mini adults in small bodies. And the psychology behind that? It's quieter, deeper, and more complex than most people realize. If you've ever felt guilty for resting, uncomfortable being taken care of, oddly serious in playful moments, or emotionally exhausted without knowing why, this might land closer than you expect. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's someone you love. Either way, by the end of this, you'll understand what really happens when childhood ends early and how it echoes long after the child has grown. Let's start with a familiar scene. There's a child in the room while adults are arguing. Voices are tense, the air feels sharp, and this child isn't crying. They're not hiding, they're watching, quietly tracking tone shifts, facial expressions, pauses. They know when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. They've learned something crucial very early. My safety depends on awareness. This is the psychology of the hypervigilant child. Children who grow up too fast often do so because unpredictability entered their world early. Maybe it was emotional instability at home. Maybe a parent was overwhelmed, absent, ill, or volatile. Maybe responsibilities arrived too soon. Siblings to care for, emotions to manage, silence to maintain. Whatever the cause, the child's nervous system adapted by staying alert, not anxious in a frantic way. Alert in a controlled way, like a guard dog that never fully sleeps. These children learn to read rooms better than books. They sense moods before words. They adjust themselves automatically, quieter, funnier, more agreeable, depending on what will keep things stable. Over time, this becomes their personality. People call them observant, empathetic, emotionally intelligent. What they don't see is the cost. Because hypervigilance is exhausting. It teaches the brain that rest is dangerous, that letting your guard down means something bad might slip through. As adults, these children often struggle with anxiety that doesn't have a clear source. They're tense even when things are fine. Their mind is always scanning for the next shift. Relaxation feels unfamiliar, sometimes even unsafe. And here's the quiet irony. They're amazing in emergencies. Calm, steady, competent. But ordinary peace? That's harder. Then there's another kind of fast-grown child. You can spot them easily. They were the strong one, the one who didn't need help, the one who didn't complain. The adults leaned on, emotionally or practically, because you can handle it. And they did, over and over again. This child learned early that their value came from reliability, from being useful, from being the one who holds things together when others fall apart. Psychologically, this creates a deep association. Being needed equals being loved. So they step up, they fix, they manage, they take responsibility not just for tasks, but for feelings. They become the emotional shock absorbers in families and friendships. If something goes wrong, they assume it's their job to stabilize it. As adults, these children often become the dependable ones, the therapists of friend groups, the colleagues who carry extra weight, the partners who overfunction. They're praised constantly and secretly resentful. Because somewhere inside, there's a tired child thinking, when do I get to fall apart? They often struggle to ask for help, not because they don't need it, but because needing feels like failure, like betrayal of the role they've always played. Vulnerability feels awkward, indulgent even, shameful. They might listen beautifully but freeze when it's their turn to speak. And when they finally do rest, guilt creeps in, a sense that they should be doing more, that they're letting someone down, even if no one is asking. But here's the twist most people miss. These children didn't become strong because they wanted to. They became strong because they had to. Now, let's talk about a quieter profile. The child who didn't just grow up fast, but emotionally stepped aside. This child learned that their feelings complicated things. Maybe emotions caused conflict. Maybe no one had the capacity to respond. Maybe being emotional made things worse. So they adapted by shrinking their inner world. They became calm, rational, self-contained. They didn't need comfort. They didn't cry much. They processed everything internally. Adults might have described them as easy, low maintenance, so independent. But psychologically, what's happening here is emotional self-sufficiency taken too far. These children learn to rely exclusively on themselves, not because they trust themselves deeply, but because they learned not to trust others with their inner experience. Over time, emotions become intellectualized rather than felt. Sadness becomes analysis. Anger becomes logic. Fear becomes planning. As adults, they often pride themselves on being level-headed, but intimacy feels strange. Letting someone see their emotional mess feels unnecessary or risky. They might struggle to name what they feel at all. Ask them how they're doing and you'll get an update on tasks, not emotions. And when someone offers care, they may feel awkward, even irritated, not because they don't want connection, but because they never learned how to receive it. Another path fast-growing children take is perfection. When your environment feels unstable, control becomes comfort. If I do everything right, maybe nothing will go wrong. If I perform well, maybe I'll be safe. So the child becomes disciplined, high-achieving, self-critical. They hold themselves to standards no one explicitly set, but that feel non-negotiable. Psychologically, this is a survival strategy masquerading as ambition. These children often excel early. They're praised for being driven, but inside, there's a constant tension. I can't afford to fail. Mistakes don't feel like learning experiences, they feel like threats. As adults, this shows up as chronic pressure, difficulty enjoying success, a sense that rest must be earned. They may appear confident, but their self-worth is conditional, tied to output, productivity, achievement. And when they finally slow down, there's an emptiness, because without striving, they're not sure who they are. But here's the most overlooked profile of all. The child who grew up too fast and now feels younger inside than they should. Because when childhood is skipped, it doesn't disappear. It waits. Some adults who were forced into maturity early later feel oddly disconnected from their peers. They might crave play, novelty, freedom, but feel embarrassed wanting it. They oscillate between hyper-responsibility and sudden rebellion, between being overly serious and unexpectedly silly. Psychologically, this is the delayed expression of unmet developmental needs. They didn't get to be messy, dependent, or carefree when it was safe to be. So those parts linger, looking for space. Sometimes they emerge as impulsivity, sometimes as avoidance, sometimes as a deep longing for someone else to take care of things for once. And here's where shame often sneaks in, because on the outside they look capable, successful, together. So why do they feel so tired, so behind, so emotionally confused? The answer isn't weakness, it's timing. Growing up too fast rearranges the order of emotional development. Skills come before safety, responsibility before rest, awareness before innocence, and the nervous system remembers. But here's the part most people don't talk about enough. Growing up too fast doesn't just create wounds, it creates strengths, deep ones. Insight, empathy, resilience, emotional intelligence, the ability to hold complexity. These children often become adults who understand nuance, who see beneath surfaces, who care deeply. The goal isn't to erase what made you strong, it's to add what you were missing. Safety, softness, permission to need, space to rest without guilt. Healing for fast-grown children isn't about becoming someone else. It's about letting yourself slow down emotionally, letting other people carry weight sometimes, letting joy be unproductive, letting your guard lower without scanning for consequences. It's learning that maturity doesn't mean constant control, and strength doesn't mean never needing support. So here's the question I'll leave you with. Which part of this felt familiar? The watcher, the strong one, The emotionally self-sufficient one? The perfectionist? Or the adult still carrying a child who never got to play? How does this land for you? If you want, share which piece you recognized, in yourself or someone close to you. And if this helped you see your own history with a little more clarity, stay around. These patterns don't define you, but understanding them can change how gently you treat yourself from here on.